Welcome to the deep dive. I am absolutely thrilled you're with us today.
Yeah, this is a really fun one.
It is because today we are looking at an incredible case of musical cross-pollination.
Really blending genres here.
Exactly. I want you to imagine taking the DNA of alternative rock, right? And then you inject the heavy, down-tuned groove of veteran heavy metal.
Okay.
You sprinkle in the chaotic speed of old school punk, and then, just for a completely unexpected twist,
The wildest part.
right, you add a former drummer for a Russian pop duo.
It sounds made up.
It does. You put all of that into a blender in the middle of Los Angeles, and you get a band called Against All Will.
Which sounds like an absolute logistical nightmare on paper.
Yeah, total mess.
But in the music industry, bringing together artists from wildly disparate genres is often, it's the only way to cut through the static.
Right.
The story of Against All Will, who formed in L.A. back in 2007, it really isn't just a story about music. It operates as a brilliant case study in the fluidity of the modern music industry.
100%. That's the mission for today. We are looking at a masterclass in shifting lineups.
The intensely collaborative nature of rock.
And how modern bands function much more like startup companies.
Yes.
Where the personnel just evolves based on exactly what the project needs at any given quarter.
It's all about adaptability.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand the mechanics of this particular startup, we have to start with the founder and lead guitarist, Jimmy Allen.
A huge name.
Massive. If you were anywhere near a radio in the early 2000s, you have heard his work. Jimmy Allen was the former co-founding lead guitarist of the massive rock band Puddle of Mud.
So we are dealing with a known quantity here.
Definitely.
This isn't a newcomer scraping by playing empty clubs on the Sunset Strip trying to get noticed by an A&R rep. We're talking about an actual architect of the post-grunge explosion.
Completely. And the accolades attached to his name are just staggering. Jimmy Allen is an ASCAP award-winning songwriter.
Which is a huge deal.
Right. And to put that into perspective for you, winning an ASCAP Song of the Year means that out of all the millions of tracks registered for performance royalties, your song was the undeniable king of the airwaves.
Dominating the charts.
He did that with the song Blurry.
Oh, I remember that one. Everywhere.
Everywhere. It won the ASCAP 2003 Song of the Year. It was the most performed song of 2002, and it won the Billboard Rock Song of the Year.
Incredible run.
And then he followed that up by winning the ASCAP Most Performed Song of 2004 for another massive hit, She Hates Me.
That level of cultural saturation is incredibly rare.
Yeah.
I mean, millions of radio plays, MTV dominance, total mainstream crossover.
It is rare, and it's even more fascinating when you look at his roots, because he didn't grow up in the Hollywood machine.
Right.
He actually spent a majority of his childhood in Chanute, Kansas.
A bit of a change of scenery.
Just a bit. He's an alum of Chanute High School, so he goes from a small town in the Midwest to standing at the absolute summit of the global music scene.
Which makes his next move so baffling.
Yes. He reaches the peak, and instead of just riding that wave forever, he steps away.
He just leaves.
He spends years writing for other independent projects and bands, and then in 2007, he decides to start completely from scratch with Against All Will.
Wow.
To me, that speaks to an unquenchable, relentless need to just create art, rather than just manage a legacy.
I'd actually push back on that slightly.
Okay, tell him.
It could be a pure, relentless need to create, sure. But let's also look at the industry landscape at that time.
2007.
Right. The mid-2000s rock bubble was bursting. The massive multi-platinum post-grunge era was giving way to completely different sounds.
That's true. The scene was shifting.
So stepping away from a legacy act might have also been a highly calculated survival tactic. If you feel a genre shifting, you don't want to go down with the ship.
Good point.
Starting from absolute zero with unknown players allows you to build a new vehicle without the baggage or the rigid sonic expectations of your previous band.
That is a really sharp way to look at it. A strategic reset. Which brings us to early 2007, when Allen is putting together the pieces for this new vehicle. And the origin story of how he found his singer, it reads straight out of a Hollywood noir film.
It really does.
Allen had these demo tracks ready to go, and he needed vocals. So his drummer at the time, Mark Moke Bistany, makes a phone call.
Moke was heavily connected.
Very. Moke had toured with Allen in Puddle of Mud and had played with heavy-hitting bands like OTEP, Cellophane, and Head PE. So he reaches out to a singer named Mizzy Pacheco.
And the atmospheric setting for this connection is so perfectly LA.
It paints quite the picture. It is a stormy night in Hollywood.
Of course it is.
Mizzy Pacheco had recently departed as a solo artist from Virgin Records.
A tough spot to be in.
Right. He's sitting in a dark and lonely part of Hollywood working on a new solo record. And right then, the phone rings.
Perfect timing.
It's Moke Bistany asking Mizzy to come cut some vocals on Jimmy Allen's demos.
It's very cinematic, but practically speaking, this pairing worked because it wasn't a cold call.
Right. They knew each other.
Exactly. Moke and Mizzy were longtime friends in the LA scene. They were drawn together by their shared East Coast roots.
That shared background matters.
It does. In a city like Los Angeles, which can often feel incredibly transient and transactional, finding someone you implicitly trust is half the battle. They had a pre-existing foundation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Moke and Mizzy were just the genesis.
The starting point.
The rhythm section that eventually forms the 2009 debut album lineup is where that musical blender really gets turned on top speed.
Oh yeah, the lineup gets wild here.
They bring in a guy named Cello Dias on bass. Now, Cello isn't your standard radio rock session player.
Oh yeah.
He is the former bass player for the veteran heavy metal band Soulfly.
Which completely changes the architectural foundation of the music.
Completely.
When you bring in a bassist from a groove metal band like Soulfly, they aren't just playing simple root notes to support a melody. They are bringing a heavily down-tuned, aggressively percussive groove that completely changes the pocket of a standard rock riff. It adds a physical weight to the sound.
Exactly. It gives it that thick bottom end. And then, to round out that debut album lineup, they bring in Steve Wilson on drums, who goes by the nickname Boomstick.
Best nickname in the business.
I had to do a double take when I looked at his resume, because it is incredibly contradictory.
It really is.
Boomstick is the former drummer for the legendary, pioneering punk band Dead Kennedys.
Classic punk.
Right. And he is the former drummer for the Russian pop duo TATU.
You really can't manufacture a more bizarre duality than that.
You literally can't.
You have the ultimate anti-establishment chaotic punk ethos sitting right next to polished international dance pop.
It's insane.
But if you analyze how that actually translates to a rock band, it makes perfect sense.
How so?
Well, to play for the Dead Kennedys, you need raw, blistering speed and stamina. To play for a massive pop act like TATU, you have to be able to play to a click track with absolute machine-like precision.
Oh, that makes sense.
When you combine raw speed with structural perfection and place it over a heavy metal bass groove from someone like Cello, you get a rhythm section that can make a standard alternative rock song sound huge.
And it worked. They take Jimmy Allen's proven alternative rock hit-making sensibilities and layer it over this Frankenstein rhythm section.
And the result is incredibly tight.
The result is an EP called A Rhyme and Reason. It drops on October 20, 2009 via Subsonic Industries.
Great release.
And it clocks in at exactly 25 minutes and 13 seconds long, spread across 7 tracks.
Short and sweet.
No filler, just a highly concentrated dose of this new sound.
And they make sure the sonic fidelity matched the talent. This EP was recorded at Korn Studios and produced by Tim Harkins.
Wow, heavy hitters.
Yeah, they were utilizing top-tier facilities with serious professionals. They didn't treat this like a garage band experiment. They packaged this unique blend of talent in a very polished, high-end way.
The proof is in the radio play. Track number 3, All About You, and track number 6, The Drug I Need, both cracked the National Rock Radio Top 50 in 2010.
The huge milestone.
They achieved exactly what they set out to do. But as I was tracing the timeline of these hit songs, I noticed a massive plot twist regarding the frontman.
The vocalist shuffle.
It's a wild quirk in the band's history. So we talked about Mizzy Pacheco, the guy in the dark and lonely Hollywood studio.
Right, the stormy night.
Mizzy was the original singer. He sang on their 2007 and 2008 singles like Tomorrow and Today and You Can't Change Me.
Setting the early tone.
But more importantly, Mizzy actually wrote the top 50 hit The Drug I Need. He wrote the song Nothing Good Anymore. He co-wrote Swept Away and The Blue.
He was deeply embedded in the creative process.
Very. But if you look at the credited personnel on the actual 2009 A Rhyme and Reason EP, Mizzy isn't the singer.
No, he's not.
The vocalist credited on the album, the guy singing the top 50 hit on the radio, is a completely different guy named Jeff Current.
From Seven Story Drop.
Exactly, the former lead singer of Seven Story Drop.
This raises an important question. How does a band maintain a cohesive, authentic identity when the person whose voice is on the top 50 hit the person touring the EP? isn't the person who originally poured their heart into writing those lyrics.
Strange, right.
It is. But it goes back to the startup analogy we discussed earlier.
Right, the different CEO.
Exactly. In tech, a founder might build the product, but a completely different CEO might be brought in to scale it and take it public.
That makes a lot of sense.
The song itself almost becomes a separate entity from the performer. Jimmy Allen created a vehicle. The vehicle required a specific part at a specific time, and it kept moving forward, even as the driver swapped seats.
It's still mind-blowing to me. Imagine hearing a song you wrote, a song containing your own personal lyrics, climbing the top 50 charts, but it's a hired gun's voice singing it on the radio.
It has to be a surreal experience.
But the story of Mizzy Pacheco doesn't end in that dark studio. He doesn't just fade into the Hollywood background. He actually comes back to the band.
He does. And his return really highlights how multifaceted artists have to be to survive today.
The timeline reveals that Mizzy returns to Against All Will, and you can hear and see him fronting the band on their 2012 single and music video, Love the Way You Hate Me.
It's a great comeback moment.
But Mizzy isn't just a singer and a songwriter. He is a true multi-hyphenate artist.
Oh, absolutely.
He is a photographer and a video director in Los Angeles. In fact, he actually directed and shot the music videos for Against All Will.
Talk about wearing multiple hats.
He shot the video for Love the Way You Hate Me, he shot The Drug I Need, and he shot Swept Away.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a perfect illustration of the modern music economy.
Because he's doing it all himself.
Right. In the past, a record label would hire a separate, highly expensive production company to handle the visual side of a band. The audio and visual departments were completely siloed.
They never interacted.
Exactly. But here you have an artist who essentially becomes the band's in-house visual director. Mizzy is shaping not just the sonic identity of the band through his songwriting, but their entire visual aesthetic through his directing.
And he's incredibly successful outside of the band, too.
His gallery work.
Yes. He owns his own gallery, Pacheco Fine Art Photography, right on the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, where he showcases his work.
That is not easy to pull off.
Operating a gallery on the PCH is prime real estate. It really underscores how insanely talented the individual components of this band were. They weren't just musicians, they were entrepreneurs.
It proves that in today's landscape, a band's visual image is just as crucial as its sound.
Yes.
And having someone like Mizzy, who deeply understands the band's core identity because he literally helped write the songs, having him direct those visuals gives the band an authentic edge that a label usually can't buy. They became a self-contained media house.
So we have this powerhouse group. They've got the radio hits, they've got the in-house visual director, they've got this insane pedigree crossing metal, punk, and alt-rock.
All the ingredients for a massive run.
But as we move into the final years of the band, that volatile startup energy starts to shift the foundation again.
The lineup changes again.
We see another change in the rhythm section. In March 2011, Boomstick Wilson, our punk pop drumming hero, is briefly replaced by a guy named Philip Gagne.
And Gagne brings yet another distinct flavor to the drum kit.
He does.
He was the former drummer for Instinctive Aggression and later played with the LA heavy metal band Before the Morning.
Very heavy background.
So with Gagne stepping in, they're clearly leaning heavily back into that aggressive double-kick metal sound, pulling away from the pop-punk precision Boomstick provided.
It's a brief change, though. Boomstick actually reclaims the drum throne in 2012.
He comes right back.
The band pushes forward, releasing a few final singles up through 2013. We get tracks like Sunset Jupiter and a song with a very ironic title considering the timeline, Another Nail in the Coffin, released in 2013.
A fitting, if completely unintentional, epitaph for the group.
Right. Because after 2013, the trail essentially goes cold.
It just stops.
And this is the part that fascinates me the most. In their discography, under the studio album section, there is a full-length project listed simply as TBD, to be determined.
The Phantom album.
Yes.
A full-length studio project that seemingly never materialized, despite the undeniable success of the EP and the top 50 singles.
So what does this all mean? I want you to think about your own life for a second. Have you ever been part of a project, maybe a massive undertaking at work, or a personal creative endeavor that burned incredibly brightly but morphed, changed hands, or just slowly faded away before reaching its ultimate final stage?
Most people have.
That's what this TBD album represents to me. It is the reality of collaboration.
It's a powerful way to look at it, especially when we consider the phenomenon of lost media.
Oh, that's a great point.
In our digital age, we expect every piece of art to be instantly accessible. The idea that a group of highly successful veteran musicians recorded material for a full-length album that is just sitting on a hard drive somewhere, unheard, is haunting.
It really is.
To synthesize everything we've looked at today, Against All Will wasn't just a standard rock band. It was this highly combustible intersection of Los Angeles rock history.
Combustible is the perfect word.
It acts as definitive proof that you can take the distinct musical DNA of an award-winning hitmaker like Jimmy Allen, combine it with a heavy metal bassist from Soulfly, a drummer who bridges the Dead Kennedys and Russian pop, and a multimedia visionary like Mizzy Pacheco, and successfully engineer top 50 radio hits.
The talent is just undeniable.
They prove the concept works even if the lineup was constantly in flux.
The friction of those different backgrounds is exactly what created the spark. It wasn't a bug in the system. The friction was the feature.
Beautifully said.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over regarding that TBD full-length album and the nature of lost media we just touched on.
Go for it.
When a supergroup of established artists comes together, they bring immense talent, absolutely. But they also bring immense baggage, previous commitments, and highly developed individual egos and ambitions.
That's unavoidable.
Does the very pedigree that makes a band like Against All Will so capable of creating a quick radio hit also make them too volatile to sustain a long-term multi-album legacy?
That's the million-dollar question.
What happens to the art that gets trapped forever in the to-be-determined phase? Think about the psychological toll on an artist knowing their best work might be permanently shelved. Is a brilliant 25-minute EP enough of a legacy to leave behind, or is it merely a fleeting glimpse of a masterpiece we'll never get to hear?
That is a phenomenal question to ponder. The precarious balance between brief, explosive creativity and long-term endurance is a tightrope every collaborative artist has to walk.
We enthusiastically thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. We hope you keep questioning the history behind the hits, keep exploring, and keep looking for those unexpected connections in the music you listen to. Until next time.